Hello everyone, my name is Xiaodong Yue. I'm a professor at Capital Normal University. Welcome you to my course on skills for writing and publishing academic papers in English. Today's topic is how to revise your paper for resubmission. Before we start our talk, let's see the vocabulary or the words for this talk. I'll do you a favor. Please read after me to familiarize your ear for the terms or the words for the vocabulary I'll mention in this talk. Are you ready? Read after me. Abstract. Abstract. Introduction. Introduction. Method. Method. Results. Results. Discussion. Discussion. Conclusion. Conclusion. References. References. Footnote. Footnote. Endnote. Endnote. Guideline. Guideline. Objectivity. Objectivity. Selectivity. Selectivity. Keywords. Keywords. Background. Background. Abbreviations. Abbreviations. Declarations. Declarations. Framework. Framework. Revise. Revise. Literature. Literature. Communicate. Communicate. Obscure jargon. Obscure jargon. Elaborate. Elaborate. Repetition. Repetition. Word limit. Word limit. Main elements. Main elements. Standard formatting requirement. Standard formatting requirement. Heading. Heading. Statement. Statement. Significance. Significance. Implications. Implications. Now I want you to keep this question in mind when you listen to my talk. First, did you experience any rejections of manuscripts before? And secondly, how did you deal with it if you have had such experiences? Thirdly, what are the tips for manuscript revision? And fourthly, how can you polish your written English for better resubmission? So with these questions in mind, let's start today's talk. First of all, let's look at what causes a rejection. What causes a rejection? Well, a rejection usually happens when a submitted manuscript had the following problems. First, mismatch of the goal of the journal and the content of the paper. And secondly, misuse of the guidelines for writing and submission. Thirdly, falsification or fabrication of data. And fourthly, failure to pass similarity checkup. And fifthly, multiple submissions of the paper. And sixthly, inappropriate interpretations of the findings. And seventhly, poor English or sentence clumsiness in tests. Now, there could be other reasons, but these are the main reasons or causes for rejection. Just to give you an example of what a rejection letter looks. Let's look at this. And then you don't have to see all of it, just see this sentence. Although I regret that I cannot bring you better news, I hope the reviewers' comments are helpful as you advance this research program. Now, this is important because once you get a rejection, there are both bad news and good news. The bad news is that you get a rejection. Forget it. End of it. And the good news is that you get reviewers' comments, and they'll be very helpful in your revision of the paper for resubmission. Now let's see some facts about the rejection of manuscripts. Almost all academic writers got rejections for their submissions, unless they are invited to contribute an article. Nearly every published paper is revised at least once or more. However sharp the reviewers' comments are, they are not personal. That means they are not directed to you, they are directed to the work that you present. And also, a request for revision is good news. It is likely that you are already in the publishing cycle. So let's look at it positively. Now, I hope you will keep it in mind. When you read reviewers' hostile comments, leave them aside for a few days or even weeks. This helps you to take the heat out of the process. For myself, I've been through this many times that I submit a paper I think is very valuable, but then the reviewers give some really harsh, mean, and critical comments, and I could not read them because I feel immediately upset with the comments. So I have to leave them for a few days when my mood is getting better, and I struggle through reading just the 2 pages hard comments. But having read them, having revised my paper accordingly, I get my resubmission quickly accepted. I hope this will be your story as well. Now here is the mind map for acceptance and rejection processing. You can have a look. When you submit a paper, you will normally go through these 2 processes. If the acceptance with revisions, then you will need to read the comments, meet the deadline for revision, and revise the paper accordingly, and you have to give a cover letter or reply letter presenting point by point description of your revisions, justify the changes you made, and explain particularly the disagreements with the reviewer's comments. And if your paper got a rejection, put it with comments. What you need to do is redraft your paper, read the comments, revise with new focus, and you look for other journals, and you prioritize the list of your journals for resubmission, and submit your paper eventually. And you go through the cycle. Having said all of this, let's look at the tips about resubmitting revised manuscripts. First, read carefully the editor's letter as well as reviewers' comments for revision and improvement. Secondly, clarify understanding. If in doubt, you can say something like, "This is what I understand the comments to mean." And thirdly, attach a cover letter which records point by point how the requested revisions have been met. Fourthly, explain clearly those points you wish to keep unchanged in your revision notes. Fifthly, make no changes beyond the requested revisions to avoid unnecessary re-review of your manuscript. And sixthly, acknowledge the editor and resubmit on or before the deadline date. I wish you good luck for your resubmission. Now, and here is an example of a sample reply letter. And you don't have to read all of it. It just gives you an idea of point-by-point description of what has been requested of your revisions. And here is another example of the reply letter. Again, it gives a point-by-point description of what has been revised accordingly. I just give you an example. And I give some other examples of reviewers' comments. They could comment on different aspects of the paper. For instance, comments to corresponding author. Okay? Although the paper proposes an interesting topic, it suffers several limitations regarding construct definition, fundamental theory, measurement, data analysis issues. And here is another example of this sample review comments addressing on different aspects that have not been clearly expressed, defined, or discussed in the paper. And I don't have to read the rest, but I'm just giving an example of how the reviewers would normally respond or comment on a paper submission. And here is another example of the reviewers' comments. It's on the fundamental theory and what has been inappropriate in reviewers' mind for clarification or revision. And here is an example of reviewers' comments on measurement issues, what the problems there are, and a data analysis, okay, and on the introduction of the paper, and on the other related issues. You can see all of this, the method, particularly on the validity and reliability of the present questionnaire. Matters like this are really important, and on discussion, what are the findings, and particularly on a particular line of a particular page that needs to be revised, and all of this. Okay, you may wonder, who gave these critical comments? Actually, I did it. You know why I did it? Because I was contacted to give a review of this manuscript, and I have to be critical to earn the editor's trust and respect in me for assigning me this task, even though I don't get paid for my job. Well, actually, it's very common for academicians to do reviewers of the manuscripts without any payment. It's our obligation, or in some way, it's an honor to get this kind of assignment. If you do more reviews like this, you're likely to be invited to become a member of the editorial board, and eventually you become an associate editor, or the editor itself, or editor himself or herself. Now, I'm just giving you an example of how the reviewer comments are written or constructed. It's usually very brief, concise, short, to the point. Now, having got rounds of revision, and finally you get your acceptance letter, and you get your paper published. And this one of the articles I got 2 rounds of revisions, and finally it was published. It was tough. I still feel traumatized in this review process because I made the first round of a revision and it was not considered or deemed as good enough. And I have to do another round of revisions. Then it was accepted. So the conclusion is the journey is the reward. And this is what Steve Jobs often said about his experiences of founding the Apple computer an Apple mobile phone. Remember, the journey is the reward. You learn through this process and you become a skilled writer.